Hello, this is Joanne Williams, and today we will discuss signs of stress, symptoms of a panic attack, and how to help a panic attack. So, its effects at work don't affect you so much, and some other simplified treatment options. And this is a summary, and this is what we will cover today: causes of stress and anxiety, definition of panic, or if it is a disorder, anxiety effects at work or on your relationships, uh, simplified techniques for anxiety relief, how to cure, or if there is a cure for panic attacks, cognitive behavioral treatment or CBT. It's called treatment for anxiety. And the question and answer today will be, will panic attacks kill you? 5-minute guided meditation for anxiety and panic relief. Next podcast, we will have a very special guest to speak to anxiety in the Black community and the tsunami of issues, of really current issues and ways to cope. So please share this with anyone that you feel will benefit to hear this very important message. And do check out podcast 2 that does go into many more statistics around the pandemic and how it is affecting all of us, but also the communities of color at a worse rate, much worse rate. So let's get started. So I'm going to jump right into the signs of stress and what causes anxiety and what is a anxiety attack or panic attack, and some techniques on ways to deal with anxiety attacks you can use at work and home. Knowing that risk factors for anxiety disorder can be genetic or modeled, you see it in your environment, or learned. Some of the specific behaviors include shyness in childhood, being female, having a few economic resources, being divorced or widowed, exposed to stressful life events in childhood or even in adulthood, anxiety disorder in a close biological relative, parental history of mental disorders, or elevated afternoon cortisol levels in your saliva, which does kind of cause more fat around your waist. So that can also be a clue. Our stress response happens in our bodies, our brains, our emotions with behavioral symptoms. It can be from a nagging worry to increased agitation or even aggression or to panic. Our bodies are really struggling to promote long-term adaptive processes that prepare the person to cope with these external challenges. Our brain can have cognitive symptoms that can include memory problems, inability to concentrate, poor judgment, racing heart, and constant worry. Emotional issues include moodiness, irritability, short-temperedness, agitation, increased inability to relax or kind of being antsy, a feeling of overwhelm, a sense of loneliness and isolation, because people don't want them to see them like that. Physical symptoms include aches and pains, increased back pain maybe, diarrhea or constipation like IBS, nausea, dizziness, chest pain, rapid heartbeat. So there are many parts and pieces to stress and anxiety, and panic can just be one of them. But a definition of anxiety is a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, and it can be of an imminent event. Public speaking is number one, or something with an uncertain outcome, maybe flying on a plane or going into a doctor's appointment to hear some test results. When it's short-lived, it is a normal emotion telling you to get ready or prepare to deal with that situation. But when it does become more chronic or long-term, especially if this creates negative effects at work or in your relationships, and when it is associated with a compulsive type behavior or an urge or a strong need to have things in a certain way, this can be considered a disorder. with these behaviors actually meant to calm the person with their anxiety or push it away to avoid it and it not create that uneasy feeling we call anxiety. Some people seem to have a strong need to control situations or have things their way and it does, or if they can't push it away, if this does you can't control the situation, it can create agitation or that kind of antsy movement. These kinds of behaviors are considered a disorder when they do interfere with your daily life at work or at home or in relationships. Or even sometimes we call people nutty names, like, oh, they're a control freak. But this really is their way to make the situation better or to feel less anxious. So, as we shared in podcast 2 on Anxiety Explained, that about a third of Americans right now, it's up from 18 to 25% to over 33% now, are showing signs of clinical anxiety, or even up to 50% in some areas with both anxiety and depression. And this is happening in some of our hardest hit states with the coronavirus. And this is from the Census Bureau data. Without even knowing statistics, we can feel the increased stress from fear of getting ill, economic fears of losing a job or a business, with social unrest. These uncertainties can create stress or going into anxiety with this constant worry. The simplified explanation of how chronic anxiety or how worry can go into a panic is through a never ending loop of continuous worry with catastrophic thinking. This becomes an anxiety disorder when it affects your daily functioning, homework, sleep, concentration, in social situations. Maybe you're avoiding going into crowds and before the pandemic, but it's heightened now. And that's what seems to be happening with the pandemic. Whatever you had before is getting heightened. But we try to avoid these situations so that you do not go into anxiety, increased anxiety, or into an anxiety attack. But the good news is there are ways to overcome this anxiety or cope better with anxiety and with panic attacks. And we're going to explain some of those ways. And it's basically to interfere or cut into or cut off this chain of anxiety or worry thoughts that go into an anxiety or panic attack. So if anxiety is worry, worry is from dreading or fearing something that might or could happen in the future. Fear is really a natural emotion that starts the worry. Its really purpose is to get you prepared. So the adrenaline and cortisol starts pumping. This raises your heart rate to fight or run. It surges blood to your heart to pump faster. It takes blood though away from your brain and gives it to your torso. Even if you are even thinking that your mother or your mother-in-law is coming to dinner or going into a social situation where you don't know people, or maybe getting on a plane, because you do start to worry with that worry loop of catastrophic thoughts that you may die if this or that happens, or some unforeseen thing may happen, you don't know. And it doesn't have to be life-threatening like it started, in kind of prehistoric times, the tiger coming at you. When you look at these catastrophic thoughts, 99% of these worries never happen. So finding ways to cope with anxiety really saves a lot of energy by saying some reassuring thoughts with confidence to yourself to intervene or stop this loop of worry before it gets up ahead of steam. Gets pretty unstoppable, because once it's into an anxiety or panic attack, it is next to impossible to stop them. But you can intervene when the thoughts are just beginning, or just have started to come up within your own thoughts. But it is possible to intervene, and you've got to come up with some skills. or some new thought practices. My favorite is, I will worry about this only when it happens, not until. Period. And this can start to reprogram your old thought patterns by first thing to recognize in this loop is your thought that starts it. So just start to notice even anxiety, worry thought and hear what you say to yourself. Be aware of the thought that started it. This is the A in my ACT method that helps to increase your awareness to lower anxiety. You will start to hear it or that anxiety thought. When you are thinking about anxiety, you're going to hear the what if this happens, or OMG, this might happen, or I might die if I do this thing. You do need to intervene here and start to practice and replace these thoughts with a reassuring thought that you can truly feel. Like, I am okay now. I can do this. We are fine. We've done this kind of thing before and we are going to be fine, or we are fine. But you must find a thought that elicits a feeling of calm or reassurance until you truly feel it. Or work on a feeling that is just less anxious. This truly is the key. This is what turns anxiety into something else that you then replace that worry loop with to intervene. Most of my clients that I counsel or do evaluations for an emotional support animal that have anxiety, probably 99% of them have anxiety and most with panic. So many of my clients have learned to deal with their anxiety using their dog to calm them. So they can go into more places or fly places to see family more often, and the animal can be on their lap the entire time if small enough to fit, or at their feet on the plane. For more information, if you think your dog might help you, you can go to our website for emotional support animals, or ESAs, at ESAPros with an S.com, at Next Generation Psychology, our agency for counseling and psychological services. We we can, or we will have a complete podcast on emotional support animals and psychiatric service animals and help you understand the difference, or maybe even throw in the traditional medical service animals so you can understand more. But at the website esapros.com, look for our free ESA video on how to qualify and much more information on the two federal laws that cover them. And ESA can also help with symptoms of anxiety or panic attacks, or post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, autism meltdowns, or even dementia meltdowns. But a client told me today that her dog Ruby really helps her with the cyclical nature, she called it, of her anxiety over time that can go into depression or depressive thoughts of making negative, these generalized anxiety thoughts like, I'll never find a job, or nothing is working out for me. And this affects her motivation to get out because her thoughts are telling her it's pretty hopeless. They're defeated thoughts that go into a defeated feeling. See the connection? That's the C in ACT. But her dog motivates her to get out and walk. One excellent technique for anxiety, even depression thoughts. One study showed that walking outside looking far away was as effective as medication. And I think nature has a healing effect on us. Try this. Just do your regular walk, but look far away. And I'll throw in, think some happy thoughts at the same time. And you can hear from this client's story how the continual habit, or she called it a cyclical thought, affects her without knowing it, or without her confronting these thoughts to replace it. So if they're not confronted, they can march right into depression unchecked, especially if we have genetics predisposing us to them, or somebody that has showed us this with modeling in your family, or this can be called learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is thinking that nothing ever works for me, or victim thinking, which we'll talk about more in post-traumatic stress disorder, or just saying, I might as well give up. Say stop to yourself. Don't allow these to continue because it will plow you over. And before you even know it, you've done this so many times, you're unaware. Become aware of this. This is the key to addressing anxiety and panic. Intervene with this thought pattern. Once you have recognized what that pattern is, if you are unable to intervene yourself, that is when you may need some professional help to do so. If you don't want to or can't recognize these thought patterns or thought habits that are leading to your panic or anxiety or even depression, this is why I developed my ACT workbook that you can download for free at anxietysimplified.net. This will guide you to refocus these unproductive thoughts to more effective ones that you can truly want more of in your life. But currently, you're just not recognizing it. You are not aware of it yet. But if you can do this workbook yourself, go ahead, use my ACT workbook. And if not, ask for help from a counselor or call us. Panic attacks are like anxiety on steroids. Panic attacks can happen in many situations, like fear of flying, feeling enclosed in an elevator, public speaking, heights, or seeing injections, or just seeing blood. Ugh. In children, it can look like crying, tantrums, freezing up, or really being clingy to you. This reaction is to the situation or object almost always provokes anxiety or fear. Mostly the anxiety reaction is to avoid the situation. Take the stairs instead of the elevator so you don't have a panic attack or that feeling of feeling enclosed. And you may not go to a concert anymore or say to yourself or to others, I just don't enjoy them anymore. Or usually that is an excuse that you've made up to avoid it. And you just said it so many times you don't realize it. But it is interfering with your life. And this may affect your work, for example. Saying, I can't fly anymore for the medical reasons or some other reasons. Or if you make up reasons, you can't go to social situations and you don't attend these functions anymore. It can affect your work or in relationships. You do these unexplained things that your partner may not understand, which can start to causing problems, like needing things to be your way or saying to your partner things that really sound controlling or possessive, or not wanting to go to things with your partner. They may question that and not even ask you. So you may need to explain this to your partner. So let's understand what a panic or an anxiety attack truly is. Clinically, we use the word panic disorder, panic attacks, instead of anxiety attacks. But truly, they're interchangeable and the same thing. Most of my clients, though, if asked if they have anxiety or panic attacks, they'll say, no, I don't have those. But when I ask them the actual symptoms, most of them will say yes. Or they think they have to have these extreme symptoms, like needing to have fainted or, to be a panic attack, where truly that's not true. It doesn't have to have them all the time, every day, whatever. It doesn't have to be that way. Clinically, you only need to have 4 of the 13 symptoms to be panic disorder. So that really isn't that much. So I do want you to listen to these 13 symptoms, since most people don't even know that some of these are symptoms of anxiety or panic attacks and not a heart attack or a medical situations. And you should always, though, have chest pains or shortness of breath checked out, even if it only to reassure yourself that you are medically okay and that you can, and this can help to ease the anxiety thoughts. Because some of these symptoms do mimic a heart attack, and once you can distinguish between the two, it should reassure you to really figure this out further for yourself. But always, always, if you do have questions, call your doctor or go to the ER, since once you've been there a couple times, and people do, you will feel more reassured that this is not a heart attack. So the definition of a panic disorder from our diagnostic manual DSM-5. Panic attacks are a surge of intense fear and discomfort that peaks within minutes and has symptoms of, and here comes the 13 symptoms: racing heart, sweating or clammy palms, trembling or shaking, hot or cold sensations, shortness of breath, feeling of smothering or trapped and you just want to escape, chest tightness or pressure, nausea, dizziness, lightheaded, feeling of disassociation or detached from reality, tingling or numbness in your extremities, or fear of dying during or in the anxiety attack. So, anxiety attacks generally happen when there is that feeling of overwhelm or feeling that things are out of control. At least one of these attacks have been followed by persistent concern about additional attacks and having significant change in behaviors related to the attacks. This describes the avoidance of places or things that might bring them on. Crowds, flying, public speaking, things like that, for example. If you suffer from panic or anxiety attacks, you know they're disruptive. They can be in your everyday life. More and more people are experiencing them right now. But they may arrive like an internal earthquake with a sudden surge of fear and terror that can just leave you trembling and sweating and short of breath. Usually within 10 to 20 minutes, a panic attack will peak and then start to become less intense. But even after symptoms have subsided completely, sufferers are often feel exhausted and worse for the wear and fearing that when the next one may rear their ugly head. Regardless of how experienced you are with panic attacks, you really never get used to the mental strain they can cause. Some people even think that they're going to die, which is one of the symptoms. So, of course, you're going to have a reaction. Or it is common to feel detached from reality or from where you are in your surroundings. It overwhelms your ability to think clearly, and you can feel helpless to them. Panic attacks can feel like they can occur out of the blue, and I hear this all the time. But anxiety or fearful thoughts are what feed the panic attacks every time. I'm going to say that again. But anxiety or fearful thoughts are what feed the anxiety worry loop every time, and also for post-traumatic stress disorder. Considering that we cannot always predict when an anxiety attack will pounce, it is common for sufferers to feel a heightened amount of anxiety at work. The thought of a boss or a colleague witnessing a panic attack can feel mortifying, and so sufferers often on high alert throughout the working day for any signs and symptoms of anxiety or panic coming, which can feel exhausting. You are wasting your energy on these. That's where the ACT method could help you to become more aware and give you some ways to deal with this. These anxious behaviors can dissipate confidence and mean that panic attacks sufferers may be less forthcoming or leading them to miss out on opportunities at work that actually make them feel like they just go quietly unnoticed. When it comes to our careers, dreams, and goals, suffering from panic can stunt your progression, and the journey can often feel like taking one step forward and 10 steps backwards. It's important to seek help if you are suffering from panic attacks by visiting your doctor if you want medication, which may be an antidepressant, or to find a counselor, and telling your boss at work or your colleague if you feel able to discuss it with them. Or you can talk to your Human Resources Department or HR so you are covered as having a disability, which is anxiety affecting your work. There is nothing to be ashamed of, and there is no cure for panic attacks, but you can learn ways to manage them. This is why I'm doing this podcast to teach you skills to manage them. The question and answer for today is from a client: can panic attacks kill you? There is real fear since you may actually feel you can't breathe or your heart is racing, you're feeling chest pain or pressure, sweating, and having breathing problems. These are signs of a panic attack when they come all together with that surge and decrease within minutes. But they will not kill you, but they may feel like they will. Take deep breaths always is going to help. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Do not breathe through your mouth. Pinch your lips if you have to. So you makes you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Several times in through the nose, out through the mouth. You cannot faint. If you breathe in through your nose, you get oxygen directly to your brain. Breathe out the CO2. If you start breathing in and out of your mouth, that creates too much CO2, not enough oxygen. That is why you faint. Pinch those lips closed so you cannot breathe through your mouth alone. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Practice just the breathing regularly to be ready when you are just feeling anxious. That will help to break that chain. It's telling you to get prepared. Get prepared with your breath. And this is what can help. Even when your brain really is asking you, what do I need to do here to survive? And knowing these symptoms can help you to distinguish between a medical emergency and panic. Once you breathe deeply a few times and say reassuring thoughts to yourself, you will calm down. If the pain goes down your arm or increased pain in your heart, that is completely different and you need to call 911. And especially in women, we have different symptoms. But many people do go to the ER with panic. And once they've gone and heard that this is a panic attack, it helps to reassure them that you will be okay. Breathe through it. While at work, breathing can work as well. But do take note of some situations that particularly worry you or things that can actually cause you to have this panic. This is a great starting point for you to assess your triggers, and then this can help you to gain that feeling of more awareness and understanding of what creates your panic attacks. You can also download a CBT app that will assist with your thoughts at work that you are thinking that then create that feeling of the anxiety loop that goes into panic. These are always, though, catastrophic type thoughts. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna whatever. These truly do not come out of the blue. They just your lower brain out of your awareness because you have thought these things so many times over and over. So when you start to notice what you are thinking, awareness, the A, awareness. Before these stressful situations, you are on your way to refocusing them. And that is actually the T in ACT, training your brain with what you truly want more of, more calm, more confidence. So then you are creating a new thought habit to replace the old worry path that leads to the panic attack. We actually have neurological paths, and that's what we're interrupting or replacing. You just put a new habit on top of the old. Once you understand this process, you can actually feel more confidence and reassured once you create this new thought habit. You will know that it is working when you start to feel that relief. Oh, it feels so good with this new thought habit. To sum this up, for types of treatments, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, has been shown to be one of the most effective treatments for anxiety, depression, and panic, and post-traumatic stress disorder, because it is retraining these old thought habits and replacing them with a more effective new habit. So you are training your brain. If you want more calm in your life, you have to think calm thoughts. You can create this new pattern since you created the old one. That's the really good news. You are in control of this. You created the old pattern, so you can recreate a new one by focusing on a calming, reassuring thought that are creating the feeling of calm. That is the key. You must feel it to have this work. I don't know why nobody tells anybody this. It's not really a secret, but it is a key. Your fear is the only thing standing in your way. So say no to your fear and say yes to calm. Next podcast, we are going to explore being Black in America with anxiety, or about uh, other things that are current issues. So don't miss this one as you continue to build your calming muscle. So now sit back and listen to a calming meditation as part of your new practice for Anxiety Simplified. And do practice your skill. So bye for now.